So in our previous video, we talked about using PS sessions for one-to-one computing or one-to-one remoting. And that works really well. I'm going to connect to a remote device, a single remote device, and I'm going to issue a bunch of commands interactively on it. Great. What if I want to do commands on a bunch of different devices simultaneously? Well, I can't do that using enter PS session, but I do have another option for that, and it's called Invoke Command. So let me take a look at git help invoke dash command, because there's a couple of things I want you to see here. And I'm going to pipe this to more. Okay, the first two we're going to be identifying our connections by connection URIs. We're going to skip that. We're going to come down, we're going to look at these next two. Because here's where I'm going to do this a little more on the fly. So invoke command dash computer name, I'm looking for a string. So just the computer names as strings. And you'll see these little square brackets here means square brackets. And I can't use my mouse there. There. All right. That means I can give it a list of names. So I could do invoke command dash computer name space computer 1, comma, computer 2, comma, computer 3, comma, computer 4. It'll take a whole long list of them. Or I can do it by searching for computers in AD computer or importing a list of computer names from a text file or a CSV file or something like that. Here's the next thing I want you to see. File path. The file path is a system string. So this file path is going to be a PowerShell script that I want to send to my remote computers. So if I have a script that I want to run on, 15, 20 computers, I invoke command, use the file path, and I send them that script. And then all of them will execute that script, which is very cool, very powerful. The alternative is if I don't have a script, I'll use this one, invoke command dash computer name system string. That's all the same thing. Here I'm using a script block. And notice the file path was a system string, so it wants the string of the file I'm going to send it. This is a system management automation script block, which is a big long way of saying put it in curly brackets. Let me show you what this is going to look like. Now remember, I only have my one computer here. And so I am going to, and this works best when you're connecting to remote devices on the same domain, shared security context. So either same domain or in another domain that you have a trust relationship with. Those should work just fine. I don't have that, so I'm just going to do my local host. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be invoke command dash computer name, and then I'm going to do localhost. I could do, comp1, comp2, whatever, get content, import CSV, whatever. And then it's going to be dash script block. So this takes that system automation script, right? So it's going to be open curly bracket, and then inside these curly brackets are whatever commands I want to send to the remote devices. And this will send up to 32 devices at the same time. If you give it more than 32, then it'll send it to the first 32 and it'll just queue the rest. And as it finishes on some of the ones it did first, then it'll start enabling the ones that it's queued on. So, you can do this to 500 computers. Literally, you could invoke command dash computer name, search Active Directory, find every computer name, and send them all the command to stop computer and shut down your entire network at one time. So, computer name, localhost, script block, and then whatever I want to. Now, I'm going to do a get service. And I'm going to get service. This is going to be our little example here. I just want everything that starts with W, where object, got to open up another little script block here, $_period. Remember, look at everything in the pipeline, deal with them one at a time. Look at the status property of it, and I only want things where the status equals running. And then I'm going to close my curly brackets, and that closes this one, and then close one more to close this open curly bracket right here. So now what it's going to do is it's going to take that script block, get service, W asterisk, where object, $_period status equals running, and it's going to execute that on a remote computer named localhost. And so when I hit it, it goes out, connects to localhost, sends that script block, and this is what I get back. Now, we're using get service as an example. I want you to see something here. It gives me the status, the name, the display name, and the PS computer name, and this is new. If I run the command locally, get service w asterisk where, whoops, wrong thing, pipe that. There we go. Where object, it doesn't really matter if you have the space between the pipe and the where object or not. I just like it because it makes it easier for me to read. Whoops, $sign, open script block, $sign underscore period status. There we go. Equals running. So this is the exact same thing. Notice it gives me the status, the name, the display name, but it does not give me the PS computer name. This is done by Invoke Command. That includes that PS computer name. Now remember, this is designed to do a bunch of remote devices all at the same time. And so it makes sense that as they come back, it's going to tag them with the computer name. Now, something important here, and that is when you do this, so you get service on the remote device, it gets service objects. But when it brings them back across the network, it takes those objects and it serializes them. And that's a very fancy term to say we stop them from being objects, we turn them into an XML document, we send it across the network. When it comes back across the network, it deserializes them, which means we take them from the XML document and turn them back into objects. But they are no longer service objects. Now they are a different type of object. So I'm going to do an invoke command, and I'm going to pipe that to get member. And you're going to see it is now, the type name is a deserialized system service process service controller. And you'll also notice that most of my methods are gone. I only have two methods, get type and toString. And those are kind of generic methods. If I do just a regular get service and pipe it to get member, you'll see that it's not deserialized, and you'll see that you've got a whole bunch more methods. Now, this whole serialization, deserialization thing is important. And it's important because it deals with what we can do with it when it gets back. So let me give you an example here. Clear my screen, and I'm going to scroll up and grab this command right here. Invoke command dash computer name localhost script block get service where object status equals running. Okay, I'm going to pipe that to stop service. Now, this is not going to work the way I want it to. Let's talk about why. Everything within this first curly brackets, this first script block, gets sent to the remote computer. So what's going to happen is I'm going to connect to a computer called localhost. I'm going to send it this block, get service, everything that starts with W, where status equals running. So it's going to go grab all of those from the remote computer. As it pulls them back, it's going to serialize them, bring them back over here, deserialize them, turn them into deserialized objects, and then go to run stop service on them. But that stop service is trying to happen here on my computer, not there on the remote computer. Now, I can make it happen on the remote computer, but what I have to do is I have to move this stop service inside this script block. Now, I really don't want to run this, by the way, because what this would do would go to the localhost computer, find every service that was running that started with a W, and try to shut them all down. And because stop service is within that script block, it's going to try to execute on that remote computer. So that's exactly what we theoretically would want in this situation. So here's why I'm making a big issue out of this. When we're doing this, we need to keep track of what's happening on the remote computer and what's happening on the local computer. So let's say I don't want to stop the service. Let's say I want to format the output. Well, formatting output would make way more sense to do on my local computer. So I might, at my local computer here, do a format list asterisk and display all of the data for me. And that formatting now happens on my local computer rather than on the remote computer. If I was to do a select object and only grab 2 or 3 properties. I could do that on the local computer or the remote computer. It would actually make sense to do it on the remote computer, so I'm moving less data across my network. But I could do it locally too. It would work just as well. But when we're running commandlets like this, using Invoke Command, we need to think about what is going on locally on my local device and what's going on the remote device. And if I want it to process on the remote device, I need to make sure I put it within these outer set of curly brackets. Okay, one more thing, and this is just going to hopefully simplify our life a little bit. And that is this. Script block is a little hard to remember. But there is an alias for it called command, which will work the same way. So for some people, it's much easier to remember invoke command, computer name, whatever. Dash command is the one I'm going to send to it rather than dash script block. That's an alias. It'll work just fine. If it simplifies your life, great. Okay. We've looked at, in our previous video, one-to-one computing using PS sessions. Now we've looked at one-to-many, or one-to-one remoting, get the right term, using PS sessions, and one-to-many remoting using Invoke Command. And these two different approaches, this idea of PowerShell remoting, and the idea of being able to send one command or one script to a whole bunch of devices all at once, or connect to one device and dig into it and run a series of commands interactively. These really illustrate some of the great things you can do with a PowerShell from an administrative standpoint.